decide whom they elect. But here is a gentleman who says, bring the international price of oil down. Here is a person who says, he's calling on everyone to bring the price down. He's also saying that's the best way of doing X, Y, Z, controlling inflation, bringing interest rates down. He's appealing to all these state actors and non-state actors. Let's stop these senseless wars. That is positive news. I'm not a soothsayer. I don't know how far that is going to go, but you've seen the results of that, certainly in the Middle East. There is a peace deal. There is an exchange of hostages underway. I am reasonably confident that a conflict which started in February 2022 cannot go on even by itself. But the President of the United States has appealed. I mean, I can repeat to you the tone of the appeal. I love the Russian people. President Putin is my friend. I call on him to end this senseless war. And that is combined simultaneously with disincentives to all parties, that I will stop aiding you if you go on fighting kind of thing. And there is a part of that is the leveraging which is taking place on oil. I mean, the outgoing administration put in place some additional sanctions on 2 entities as far as I remember, and some shipping fees. But even if you look at the language of the incoming energy secretary, it is couched in terms of wanting to use this as leverage to resolve the problem. The direction is very clear. The direction is international prices at the bunk should come down, people should benefit, economies should benefit, we should get on to other forms of economic activity. I don't want to comment on the rest, but on the energy front, to me, this is a plus.
Let's understand this plus as you called it, sir, from an Indian context. And I'll ask you this on the back of the conversation that I had with Hardeep Singh at the IEA. And he said for 2025, one of his favorite things that he's going to be watching out for, his favorite word is going to be diversification. Diversification as far as source of fuel is concerned, but diversification also in terms of energy bets. And I'll ask you this now with the Trump administration making it clear that people need to start to import more from the US. What is it going to mean in terms of India's import mix? And with the rupee depreciating, what do you anticipate the import bill is likely to be impacted by?
First and foremost, the diversification of sources of supply is something that we had embarked on already. I've been associated with this ministry for 3.5 years. One of the statistics I've been throwing around is, we used to import from 27 countries, we import from 39 now. Lately, I saw one of our companies, BPCL, adding 1 or 2 other countries. So it should be 30. I think they imported a consignment from Argentina, if I remember. And there's also talk of 1 or 2 others. Angola also. So that diversification is going on. But Shri, that diversification provides you at best satisfaction in terms of geographical spread. Your primary sources of supply essentially for the 5.5 million barrels that you import are the traditional suppliers in the Middle East. To that you've added Russia. I see some of that changes because the United States has become a major supplier. Now, we are today, I think if you look at the 2 previous financial years, I think it was $19 billion and $20 billion. So if you were to ask me a question, and let me anticipate you're asking that question, can I import, I meaning India, import from the United States more? My answer would be an unambiguous yes. But again, all our imports are based on some fundamental, self-evident truths. We will import from wherever we can if the price is right. We never imported anything from Russia. I think up in February 2022, our imports were only 0.2%. Today, it's gone up. Russia, Iraq went up and down in the last few years. Who was the major supplier? Today, I see the United States, if they are gas from the United States, by the way, in any case is very profitable. I think it's about $2 cheaper also if I'm going by rough comparison. So we are importing $20 billion of energy from the United States. Can we import more? Answer is yes, we can. We probably will. I don't know. These are decisions which have to be taken. Can we source more from elsewhere? Again, my feeling is yes. I have said so on many occasions, not so often on record in the public domain, but in my discussions with my bilateral colleagues. I've very often told them, look, you've got a major find, like Guyana. Now, obviously, somebody is marketing that oil for you. But please remember, the way the world is changing, I can anticipate things for, let's say, we were there in 2023, 24, for another 5 to 10 years. But what happens is, Shireen, suddenly a lot of oil comes available. Then it becomes more decidedly a buyer's market.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the seller, of course, if the seller is not there, buyer kya karega? But the point is, if a large economy like China is reaching a point of satiation, I should use the word saturation, but I think they're satiated because they have their own, their vehicular traffic is moving to EV, but that EV is tied to thermal.
Yeah.
So how much more oil can you sell? So I see in the coming months, the newly elected president will want to sell more energy to Europe. I already see talk of that. We will have bilateral discussion. I don't know when this will figure prominently because the new administration is settling down. But I know the economic operators on both sides are already talking about it. We've had people in Texas, Houston, Texas and others coming to us for many years now saying that we want more offtake agreements, we want this, we want that. All that is clearly discernible in terms of the shape of things to come.
Well, as you rightly pointed out, I would imagine that these are going to be conversations that take place, and of course, the expectation is that Prime Minister Modi will be in the US at some point during the month of February. Of course, we don't have a final date yet, and perhaps this will be part of the conversations, including what was discussed between the two leaders last night in the phone conversation that took place between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. But let's talk about the priorities that are in your control, sir, and this is something that we've spoken about many times in the past, and I believe you've been able to achieve that blending target, or close to the blending target you set out for yourself, almost now at 20%?
You know, we are always a month late, so we are today on the 25th of 27th, 8th, 28th of January. The figure we have is of December. No, we don't. We have November. And I think that figure have we got the December figure? Not yet.
19%.
90%. So 19.9%, 19% is there. Now, if you have a target of 20% by the end of the ethanol blending year, which is October, and you are already in January talking about it based on previous figures, you don't need to have any knowledge of, rocket science or anything to know that you've already reached the 20% figure. All the feed. So I think the two remarkable things that have developments which have taken place are, one has been the diversification of feed supplies. I think it was in July 23 and later in December 23 that there were some decisions taken to limit the availability of, broken fruit, food grain and later sugar, etc. That led autonomously to some incentivization to procure maize. Maize did very well. So today you are in the happy situation. You have, they have arranged the price of broken food grain at what, 22.5 rupees, and that has made a lot of food grain available. The ethanol which is coming from sugarcane juice, B heavy molasses, C heavy molasses, that's one route, and then you've got maize. So if anybody were to was agonizing about 20% hoga, nahi hoga, half my job is to, in my quiet way, with my colleagues sit and do our work, but 20% of the time gets taken away by the relentless cynicism that you have thrown at you from people. All said and done. I mean, if I were left to my side, I would want the oil marketing companies to register profits which are 10 times the current one. But if you look at it, you look at the last year's profits, you look at now, somebody says, hey, but this one is a little low. He's carrying inventory of a huge amount, and as he loosens that, and he's also building refineries, he's also doing other things, his sales have gone up. So it's not that you can win every quarter and register what you like. But you see some of them, I'm not going into names, but
Right.
the fact of the matter is, one of the companies which was supposed to be in doldrums 2 years ago, I'll name it HPCL, record profits this year. I am very, very sanguine that, you know, if you do things right, some quarter may have up and down. They may be saying कि वो LPG पे बड़ा खर्चा हो गया, सरकार जल्दी दे रहे. Little bit of whining is also good for the system. It encourages Pankaj and others to, you know, lean on the finance ministry a little more. But these are good things. Look,
How much do you intend to lean on the finance
No, no,
ministry
we
for the under recoveries on account of
no,
LPG, sir?
these are ongoing processes. I can only tell you about the past, Shireen. When there was an under recovery, I think of 28,000 crores, we managed to get them 22,000 crores. Then there was an under recovery on petrol, and we made some provisioning, but they were so busy in enjoying their profits that they forgot to come to us, and we also looked the other way and it fell off the books. But no, seriously, I am not worried about that. I am, as a professional, more interested in the ecosystem being in place and all the stakeholders contributing to it. So we got the ethanol blending right. We will get 20% right. Today, looking ahead, I would like to hear sensible views from not only the participant, but इसको 20% से आगे कहाँ ले जाएं?
What's your view? कहाँ ले जाएं?
No, I will go by what can be taken. Look, I personally think that 20% was a mindset, or rather an inhibition that we developed only because we were told that SIAM, Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, they think that up to 20% you don't need any
Right.
tinkering in the engine.
Engine, correct.
But you know, again, these are things which come from somewhere. I don't think any one of us, I mean, the Prime Minister deserves the credit for having confidence of putting in an ecosystem by 10% karo, 2022. I joined in November of, not in July of 21. I used to agonize it, 10% kaise hoga? We managed it 5 months in advance yesterday. But what is the point I'm making? You had a target of 20% for 2030. You are doing it not 5 years in advance, 5 years and 6 months in advance, 5 years and 8 months in advance.
Yeah.
Now, when I was walking into Bharat Mobility, somebody whispered into my ears that there are 19 flex fuel vehicles of
On
all
display,
kinds on
yeah.
display. You know, I'm a cynic. I mean, I acknowledge, when somebody gives me good news, I say, "Achha, dekhte hain," you know. I thought they were prototypes, you know, which, you know, sometimes in auto shows, as a youngster in, a young foreign service officer, I used to go to the Geneva Auto Show every year. I used to see this futuristic design. Some of them never came of the age, but some of them were, these are not prototypes of that kind. These are ready to come into the market in 3 to 6 months. I saw domestic manufacturers. I don't want to name them, you think I'm a publisher. These are all ready. The Japanese manufacturers are ready to bring E85 engines here. Now, if you are selling E100 fuel, again, it was an act of courage when one of the companies decided to put E100, that's pure ethanol, on sale. A lot of my friends who are cynics like me, "Arey bhai, kya karoge? Iska kya bikega nahi?" So I said, look, the very fact, it's like a chicken and egg story. If you can demonstrate that E100 is available, maybe somebody will bring his tractor and start using ethanol. Maybe somebody will use it for a cooking top. I don't know. I mean, today, just imagine, these people would never have displayed their 19 flex fuel vehicles if you did not have E100 fuel on sale in what, 400 places? Because you have it on sale, they are also encouraged to bring. So it's, you know, it's also relations between human beings. If you want to reach somewhere, you have to start by saying that you are willing to create the conditions, you're willing to be nice to people, they will respond. And that is how the biofuel blending story is emerging.
Absolutely.
But even more positive than that, I think, is the green hydrogen story. Again, when we started green hydrogen, kahan hai, kya hai? When the Honorable Prime Minister from the ramparts of the Red Fort turned around and said, we have to take up green hydrogen in mission mode. I am headmaster of a group of ultimate cynics. कहा नहीं कुछ हुआ नहीं है, कुछ नहीं हुआ. वो कौन है गवर्नमेंट में? वो तो स्टील मिनिस्ट्री कुछ कहती है, वो एविएशन कुछ और कहता है. अब मैंने कहा वेट तो करो. Then came the next decision that under PLI you would give 19,700 crores for electrolyzer. Uske baad, now you don't ask these cynics the same question. Now you've got all kinds of people all over the world wanting to sell their domestic electrolyzers, membrane-less, this, that. So suddenly it's taken off. But you know, all this is also possible because as a people, we Indians are, jugaad is a very crude way of describing it. We are innovative and entrepreneurial to an extreme. That's why give them some skill level, give them good education. They become King Kongs in the most sophisticated markets in the world when it comes to innovation and enterprise.
No, we're looking for more unicorns.
No, that's why I wanted to say. I said no, because
and King Kongs as well.
No, because you succeeded in taking me into a direction. I thought we were discussing the number of startups and unicorn and the award winners. But you know, you provoked me, and I'm easily provocable. So we started off with something else. No, but I'm delighted. For instance, I believe we've had some good panel discussion. But some of those are young friends who are going to be awarded. I presume they're all young. But no, I'm not saying older people are not innovative. But our innovation takes a totally different form. And sometimes out of our fossilization must come innovation in order to remain relevant. No, I'm saying something else. Just imagine, one is for you to be innovative, for you to come up with something brilliantly new. But look at the platform you will get be given to display all this thing. Today, India Energy Week, I say this, we are what, 2 weeks away from it, is going to be the second largest platform of its kind in the world. If I compare it to the 3 editions we've had, the first one, the second one, and the third one, I had some notes here, I'm not taking them out. I compare the number of, the comparisons in terms of square feet of exhibition space. It's phenomenal, the growth. We decided to use this year Yasho Bhumi because it's a newly created exhibition space, and it's, what I've seen, one of the nicest exhibition spaces in the world. But the space there was not enough, so they had to build German tents outside. If you look at the number of partner countries, if you look at the number of registered delegates, all those statistics I have, I'm not going to take your time reading them. But more than that, our host today, the chairman of ONGC, I was having a chat with him before I came here. And he said many nice things, but one of the things he told me is that how we've been able to enthuse the students community into this process. And I think to me that's a very important thing. Because I'll tell you something, if as a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old, I went to an exhibition and I saw something, it stayed in my mind much longer. Now if you get the products and students of our IITs, other engineering colleges, you come them, let them look at these cutting edge technological breakouts.
Sure.
I mean, what do we have? 110 unicorns? Is that the number 110? If you look at the number of family offices, you know, they've gone up from 35 to God knows what, the total wealth that they are, the family offices alone, 35 billion devoted to this, to unicorn. Now, where in the world do you have ready-made pool of bright, innovative people and government support? Government support is also now running in 100 crores. But, you know, I can't always be saying positive things. So I'm going to put in a slightly cynical marker. When I came to this edition last year, and I was told that the amount of money the OMCs were putting in for startups was 500 crores.
550 crores.
550. So I said, I'd like to see that to go to 2,000 crores. Shireen, you and I are both disappointed. It hasn't happened yet. Or if it has happened, they've not shared it with us. So I would like to utilize this opportunity to do a bit of gentle prodding on that.
Well, I'm sure the OMC is present here and listening to what you have to say, Mr. Puri. But since we are talking about the road ahead to really foster and encourage more collaboration, and I think the feedback that we were getting here from, of course, I heard the ONGC chairman speak, and I also heard the oil secretary speak about the ask that industry has from the government, but also equally the ask that government has of industry. You know, we're talking about students and we're talking about harnessing the power of the youth. The academia in industry collaboration has been a broken link which plays out across this sector but plays out across different sectors as well. Is there anything that you believe that you can do through the ministry, through the OMCs to bridge that link?
It's not something that I disagree with you. In fact, I'm much more forceful in my assertion. And I'm also not interested in trying to apportion the blame. Where does it lie? Does the fault lie in our industry or does it lie in academia? But that's not a problem just with the energy sector. You know, 7 years I was Housing and Urban Affairs Minister, and one of the things that I worked up most about, I used to ask how many of our universities have centers of urban learning, urban affairs. Because something fascinating is taking place, huge, massive amount of urbanization is taking place, and we try to rectify that. For instance, our municipalities, our urban local bodies, I think, they are today dealing with complex range of issues, with use of technology, but they don't have the manpower. So we introduced a scheme called TULIP, I think, where fresh graduates from universities would come on internship to the urban local bodies, and they were paid a reasonable amount of money. It's working very well, because what happens then is the urban local body gets talent, some of them decide to specialize. You see, a university cannot keep changing its curriculum with the changing pace. It has to. I mean, Delhi University, I've come from a college in Delhi University, phenomenal change. Again, with help from some parts of industry. You know, they're coming up with centers of learning, artificial intelligence, etc. But I think we, that is my colleagues in the ministry and the ONCs, need to do a little more to get academics on board. Now it's happening in some places. I see IITs somewhere, IIT Delhi, IIT Mumbai, Powai, IIT Chennai, they're doing it. But you know, OMCs and IITs not enough, because OMCs भी कितने हैं, 5 और IITs जिनकी आप बात कर रहे हो, they're also a handful. I would like to see that more broad-based, because my inner desire or my ambition is, when I saw the team gathered in ISRO for Chandrayaan, you know, you saw fund is very strong on gender. But these were graduates of engineering colleges in tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities. That is when it takes off. Look, I'm an optimist. I think technology, industry, and private sector also, I must keep compliment them. Technology, industry, academia are interacting, but that interaction must be more institutionalized and more intensive. Again, I say this broadly, some of the intensive is very good. We ask industry to do strategy. I have in our brainstorming sessions every month, I tell them there are a lot of people here who've got very bright people on them. Use them to do some studies. But it's not just important to get a study done. That study must be brought back for us to be able to see which elements we can pick out to improve our function.
You know, speaking of improving functioning and taking that 8,000 startup number in the energy sector in India to a significantly higher number, sir, I think one of, again, and I'm basing this on the feedback that I just picked up here, is access. Access to government, access to industry. How can we institutionalize access? Because if you want problems to be solved and you want solutions to be found by startups, if the government were to identify problems and then maybe throw it up to say, okay, this is the startup challenge, this is a hackathon, or whatever the case may be, can the government do more by way of identifying the problems that you would like solved, so that then you can crowdsource ideas from the startup ecosystem as well?
Well, there's only one answer possible to what you're saying. What is the answer to access? To be more accessible. I mean, I don't even mind being contradicted. I keep getting hundreds of messages on my private email, WhatsApp or email, that I'm so and so, I want to do something. Now, I don't react to each of them individually, but I send them on. Then what I tell them is, if you have a worthwhile idea, somebody has to filter it. There are a lot of people who think they're bright, but you know, their sense of their contribution and your sense of their contribution may not converge. Some of them may be much brighter than, and you are not able to understand what they're saying. But have somebody filter it. And then if they're good, let them make a presentation to at the medium, at the mid-seniority level people, and then there has to be a system. If the minister or the secretary or the CMDs were to start individually filtering the proposals for a new contribution, you know, it wouldn't work. So yes, we have to be more accessible. Can we do more by way of government policy? By the way, I'm very impressed by the fact that the government consciously has put in place an ecosystem to encourage this thing. Which means finance, essentially. But it is not confined to finance. The very fact that the Honorable Prime Minister interacts and encourages those contributors, that is saying a lot. It's something that's happening in sports also. It's happening in other areas. Because an entrepreneur likes to see he is smart, he or she is smart. They will monetize it. But on the road to monetization, and even without monetization, they also need encouragement. Because you need validation from your own peer group, from other people. And I believe that is happening. Maybe we need to do a little more.
Let me ask you about some of the trends that globally are being talked about at this point in time. You know, artificial intelligence, of course, is the rage today, and we're seeing the AI wars play out, including how they've impacted US tech stocks overnight on the back of what we've seen happen in China. But on the energy side, 2025 is expected to be a breakout year for nuclear. You know, how do you see the role that India can potentially play, if at all, in that space? Is that a space that you think that we should navigate or traverse it?
I have two comments, Shiri. One is that in any field of technology, there is an underlying dichotomy or a discussion between intellectual property protection and open source. So since you are referring to yesterday, let me give you my little bit on this. When we started discussing intellectual property initially, I'm talking about the 80s, when the Uruguay round of trade negotiations were taking place, there were a lot of people who said that intellectual property protection must be given pride of place. I agree with you on that. It must to a point. But then they took that intellectual property debate from the World Intellectual Property Organization to the WTO to be formed, because they wanted to relate it to TRIPS. So if you were not protecting intellectual property, they would take trade retaliatory sanctions against you. I think the history of intellectual property and the history of technology has shown that you need a mix of the two. So what happened yesterday is that a $2 trillion company, again I'm not taking names, had $600 billion of its thing wiped off because of an open source challenge. This will happen. This will happen, and you have to take it in your stride. As far as we are concerned, and you're talking about my OMCs and the private sector in energy, and what 2025 will mean, I think a good starting point is to first acknowledge and take on board one basic realization, that the extent of AI implementation in our energy sector is already immense. When I did the last brainstorming session, I told them, please compile it. Compile what you've been doing, and I hope that compilation is ready in a day or two, because I want to send it as an input to forthcoming events. So we are underestimating. It's not just in refinery management. It's not just that. See, in a society like ours, where you have developmental challenges across a broad horizon, you will find that on the one hand, you're using very basic technology or the lack of it, which results in simple road accident. On the other hand, your more sophisticated installations are being managed through very advanced technology. It takes time. I mean, I don't want to be cruel, but you can have the largest economy in the world, $23 trillion, all the technology at its disposal. Sometimes very basic problems take place there. So it is the responsibility of all those who have either the charge of it or who are related to it on the sideline to ensure that these things don't take place. But today the good news is that we have taken to AI and the fourth industrial revolution, other developments in a very big way. And you see on what you are using personally, what industry is using. And once you get a compilation, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Honorable Prime Minister invited all the Council of Ministers, the Secretaries, and everybody to a major exposition by one of the leading exponents of AI in the world. So, and this was done some time ago, many years ago. And I remember, so this is a realization which is there right at the top, at the level of the Honorable Prime Minister, and it's permeating down. And I think the fourth industrial revolution, you see, what was our problem? When the first industrial revolution took place, if you time it, say, 1750, 1850, we were not around. We were not an independent country. You had just lost your political freedom after the Battle of Plassey in 1757. second industrial revolution. But this one, you are now there. I mean, soon you'll be the third largest economy in the world. You've got all the intellectual firepower that you require. Yes, I mean, the cynics and my friends in the opposition, hey, ye bhi theek nahi, wo bhi theek nahi. You go on cribbing. You know, when we started talking about $5 trillion economy, you will remember that more than anyone. I said, how is that possible? You'll go into this trap, that trap. Today it's staring you in the face.
Well, since we're talking about the road ahead, let me end by asking you to give the startups here in this room, who will of course be recognized and honored in the presence of all of these wonderful people here today. What is your message to them? What is it that you would like them to do? What is the problems that you would like them to address? Not just today, but 5, 10 years on at this point in time. And what kind of support, what kind of enablers will you put in place in addition to the measures that have already been taken? What's the message that you send out?
I have a larger political message to them, which is also a message of economic support. Said, you are the guys who are going to shape the contours of Viksit Bharat. You are the people. Because I suspect that the average age of these innovators, entrepreneurs must be what? Mid-20s? 30? Not sure, but I would think the average age would be somewhere around. We are in 2025, and if you're looking at Viksit Bharat, although the technical thing is 22 years from now, but I think the rate at which we are going, it will be done a good. So you're looking at in the next 15 years or so, when they will be in their prime. But they will be in their prime, their innovation will be even more cutting edge, and the system, both from the government, private sector, is all set to encourage them. By the way, that point I made about 500 crores of the OMCs to be raised to 2,000 crores. I mean, let's not lose sight of that. I mean, second time, not going to do a third time.
I made the point.
No, my point is, it should be possible if you have a great idea and you worked on the basics for you to be able to not spend time, but dial a number which should be available. I am so-and-so from such and such city. I have a great idea or a thought. I would like to make a presentation. It should take you 24 hours within which you should find yourself someone who will hear you out, and the rest should follow. Because I think two things are happening, and this they know also. Today, it's not the young innovator who's looking for someone to provide financial support. The guy with the money is looking around for these guys also. I know a lot of very well-to-do, successful people. I don't know whether you call them what you call venture capitalists, other people. They are actually looking angel, all kinds of people. They keep telling me, "Koi achhe ho to batana." So it's a matchmaking that you have to do between the bright idea and the guy who's got the money to incubate that and further that bright idea.
Well, we hope that you continue to play matchmaker very effectively, Mr. Puri, in the years to come. I'm sure that many...
No, I have nothing but admiration for them. So I'm absolutely clear that the time to come, those of you whom you are honoring today and those who will be honored in turn will provide a demonstration, a message to others so that this whole thing gets encouraged.
Let me end by asking you, as we look into 2025, and it is an uncertain environment, what is the single biggest opportunity that you see for India, as well as the single biggest risk?
Look, risks, if you study, it's now a total science which has to be studied. You're part of a global system, and 50% of your GDP is in the external sector. So when I talk about risk, I say that you are so integrated in the world that if something happens somewhere, it does affect you. What is the extent to which it affects you? I don't know. It depends on the nature of the development and the nature of the risk involved. So as long as you have got human beings, some of them will take right decisions, some of them will take wrong decisions, you have that risk. But there is no such a single thing. The one big thing that I am very positive development is that our ability, our resilience quotient, our ability to navigate that with very clear-headed political leadership and a supportive economic environment, which comes from the people. Governments only provide the enabling environment. Government can provision, but if the people don't work it. Now, I think what will happen in 2025 go further. BJP will win many more elections. We will have the entire country on a double-engine sarkar. That will be a very positive development. So that the kind of derailments that we see, country is growing at exponential thing. You will be the third largest economy in a year and a half. And you see problems in Delhi because one guy is living in Cuckoo Land.
This is going to be a whole other debate and discussion, but we leave
And I think it's not you, but one of your other anchors.
We'll leave it for another day. But the need of the hour is to really look at the landscape and the opportunities that present themselves. As you heard from the minister, you heard from the secretary, as well as the ONGC chairman. There's plenty to do. There are plenty of opportunities waiting for fixes, waiting for solutions. The need of the hour is, of course, an enabling environment, is for capital, which, as we've all discussed, is available for good ideas. But it's also a question of resilience, patience, and perseverance. So once again, my very best to each one of you who has made it here to this room this afternoon, and to those of you who are going to be walking away with the honors. May you continue to flourish. May you continue to energize India. Ladies and gentlemen, Hardeep Singh Puri, the Honorable Minister, thank you very, very much for joining us here this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Honourable Minister. Thank you so much, Ms. Shireen. What an incredible discussion. Your vision and guidance for India's energy future is surely going to lead to more doors opening up for the global energy spectrum. To conclude this segment, the Honourable Minister will now announce the winners for Avinya, Vasudha and Hackathon Awards. Avinya 25 was a startup challenge based on energy, and it was a flagship initiative under the theme of Energize India, catalyzing growth through startup innovation. This year, Avinya has achieved new heights, attracting 173 startups across diverse sectors, including oil and gas, renewables, green mobility, and biofuels. These startups have showcased cutting-edge ideas, patented technologies, and the entrepreneurial